Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Natalia. I love to read and I feel like I haven't introduced myself in a while, so maybe I should do a little introduction video soon. But beside the point, I ended up reading 6 books in August, which I feel like I'm not mad about that, but I was on holiday, so I feel like I could have read a bit more. But let's just get into talking about them. So the first 3 books I'm going to talk about were ones that I read in my summer reading vlog, which I did read partly on holiday and then partly once I got back. So these are the books that you might have heard about already if you did watch that video, and if you want to hear more of my thoughts, definitely go and watch that video. So the first book I finished in August was Same Time Next Summer by Annabelle Monaghan. This one I rated a 3.25 I think at the time, and I've changed it to a 3 just because it really hasn't stood out to me. As I said many times, I feel like at this point I really enjoyed Nora Goes Off Script. That's the only other book I've read by Annabelle Monaghan, but I really enjoyed it when I read it. And I was really excited for this, and then I saw a couple of mixed reviews before I read it, and I definitely see why this book has so many mixed reviews. It has my favourite trope in it, which is childhood friends to lovers to exes to lovers. That's my favourite trope. If it's done well, I'm probably going to rate it 5 stars. I just feel like this wasn't really done very well, and that's probably maybe a lot of other people's opinion on this if they didn't like this book. As I said, I love that trope, but I do feel like it needs to be done in a way where oftentimes there's a current partner. If there's not a current partner, bonus points, but if there's a current partner, I feel like I need to have a reason to dislike that person, probably from the beginning of the book, because otherwise I'm just going to feel like a bit bad for the partner. And in this book, you're introduced to Sam as someone that is very put together. She's very organized, she's maybe a bit of a perfectionist, and she's with someone that is very similar to that. And it's kind of, the picture perfect life. I know it's not what I would want out of my life, but I could see the image, I guess. And that's how you're introduced to her. And there's not really anything wrong with their relationship other than they kind of have a plan set out. Maybe Sam doesn't want to go with that plan, but it's not very clear from the beginning that that is the case. And I don't think it's until about halfway through that you start to see maybe some less likable traits in the partner. But honestly, I feel like she isn't very likable either. And honestly, neither is the love interest, Wyatt. No one's very likable. So I think that's definitely where this book fell down for me. Yeah, I just wasn't really a fan of it. It just felt not as well written as I would have wanted or even have expected from Annabelle Monaghan, which maybe sounds a bit harsh, and I don't really mean it to be harsh. I just think because I really enjoyed Nora Goes Off Script, and I think that was really well written. I was expecting the same from this. I also found Nora Goes Off Script so descriptive in the sense that I could picture Nora's house so clearly, and I think I've said this in a different video. I actually don't see things in my mind. I can't remember what it's called, like aphantasia or something. I don't see things. So when I'm picturing something, I'm not literally picturing it. I can't imagine anything in my head. So for me, it's a bit different. But with Nora Goes Off Script, I could imagine it and picture it, but I couldn't physically picture it, if that makes sense. Whereas this one, I just didn't really feel like I pictured it in the same way. Yeah, I think I've talked about this enough now. Then the next book I finished was One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. Again, in the same video, I really loved this one. I gave it 4.5. Again, as I have said in that video, I loved Every Summer After, which is the first book in this little duology kind of thing. And that has the same tropes at the Same Time Next Summer, but I feel like it's done so much better. There's a different trope in that at the end that is a bit controversial and probably is why this book was kind of needed. And that's part of why I really love this book, because I feel like you just got to see more of Charlie. You don't really get to know him as much as an adult, and this book obviously gives you that and more of what his life is like and how he's kind of dealing with his family situation and yeah, just what his life's like. And I really loved that. I really loved Charlie, so that was nice. And then Alice was the female main character, and she had decided to go back to the lake after 15 years or something. And she's going with her nan, who has had a bit of a health scare or something along those lines. And she's kind of looking after her nan, and that's the dynamic there. So you have Nan, you also have Charlie kind of helping look after Nan, which I really loved. And yeah, Alice was really likable. I think I did say in my vlog there was just some parts to her that I didn't relate to. Alice reacted to things exactly how she would react, if that makes sense. Obviously, if I was Alice, I wouldn't do the same thing. So that was kind of an aspect that I found a bit difficult, but it really wasn't that big of a deal. I really enjoyed Alice's character. I really enjoyed Alice and Charlie together. They had really good chemistry. And yeah, I just really love this book. As I said in the video, extremely good summer vibes. It's probably the best book series for reading in the summer. It's another one where you can definitely picture the location, which I really love. So I really recommend this one. Then I read The Summer Girl. That was the last book I read in my summer reading vlog. And I DNF'd this one. So that's why I don't have it. I've actually already donated it because I just have no reason to keep it, and I'm not going to give it to anyone else because I don't really recommend it. I stopped reading it about 100, maybe a bit less than 100 pages in, and I normally try to push through to like 50%, but with this one, there was a specific element of this book that I just couldn't get over in my head, and I just knew that my reading experience wouldn't be good. I'll get to that in a bit. This book basically follows two sisters. The older sister is still living in England, and she's just getting by with her life basically, and then the other one, the younger one, has gone to Martha's Vineyard to work for the summer, and then they realise back in England that the sister in Martha's Vineyard hasn't got back to them. Basically, she's been MIA for a couple of days, and the older sister decides to fly to Martha's Vineyard to find her. She just thinks that she's at a boy's house or whatever, but it kind of turns out otherwise. So it's a bit of a mystery thriller vibe. It's obviously mostly based on Martha's Vineyard. I didn't finish it, so I don't know what else happens, but I'm pretty sure there's at least one other point of view by the end of it. I have kind of looked at what happens at the end, and I'm glad I DNF'd it, to be honest. I don't think I would have really enjoyed this one. As I said, there was something that really stuck out to me that meant I knew I wasn't going to enjoy reading it, and that was the constant British phrases used by the Americans on Martha's Vineyard. It just kind of got to a point where I was seeking out where these Americans were saying these phrases, and it just was taken away from my reading experience. You can watch that video to hear some of the stuff that they said, but I just feel like it kind of took away from the fact that it was on Martha's Vineyard, which was something I was looking forward to reading, because I'm actually going there in a couple of weeks. So I was looking forward to that aspect, and it just didn't really feel like we were there. So yeah, that's The Summer Girl. The next book I read, or actually reread, was Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This is still a 5-star. This is still my favourite Emily Henry book. I just really love Nora and Charlie. I feel like they're both such strong characters, independently, and then together they have amazing chemistry. They want the same things out of life. I can't speak highly enough about this book. I just really love every aspect of it. I really love the sister relationship between Nora and Libby. Nora's an older sister, and this book is very much if you're an older sister, I feel like you're going to relate to something about this book. I really relate to that. I don't have a younger sister, so maybe if you do, you might even relate to it more than me. But yeah, that aspect of it is really good. Charlie is also an older brother, and he has a kind of different family dynamic to Nora, but there's definitely an element of, if you're an older sibling, you're going to relate to these characters in some way, and they have different responsibilities between them, but you will relate to either or both, I think, if you're an elder sibling. And that is really what stands out to me about this book, just because I really relate to Nora. I always say, out of any character I've ever read, I really relate to Nora the most. So if you haven't read this one yet, I would highly recommend. I do feel like, again, I don't want to keep going on about it, but this book will stand out to you if you are an older sibling, and maybe if you're not an older sibling, you might prefer some of Emily Henry's other books more, because obviously I still love a lot of Emily's other books, and Beach Read is definitely a popular one for people to really love, and that one doesn't have as much of a specific element to it that this book has, but this is your sign to read it if you're an older sibling. Then the next book I read was The Unmaking of June Farrow. This was an unexpected, really enjoyed book. I think I also ended up rating this 4.5, so it's kind of in line with One Golden Summer. I just really enjoyed this one. I didn't really know what I was going into. I actually, a long while ago, so I haven't been active on my Bookstagram in a long time, I posted about this, and I kind of asked the people that follow me on that account when they think a good time to read this is. And I remember one person saying that summer was a good time, but summer into autumn is also a great time to read this, and I completely agree. I think it is based in summer, but the coziness of this book really makes it a good like transitional book. And hopefully when this comes out, I think it'll be the beginning of September. Hopefully some of you guys might still be in that transitional phase. I probably will be here, and I really recommend this book to read because it was just so cozy. And again, like One Golden Summer, I really could picture this book, and it's very hard to explain because I don't want to give away what happens in this book, but the fact that I could picture it was really nice because I honestly don't really have much knowledge, or like I just don't really know about the time period and the place that this book is set in, and I could still picture it to an extent, and I really just enjoyed that aspect of the whole book. It's definitely a mix of different genres. I wouldn't really have a specific genre to choose for this one, but it has kind of, they're not witches, but it has like witchy elements, which definitely helps to the autumn vibes of this book. And yeah, I just really loved it. And then finally, the last book I read in August was Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. This book I finished yesterday, which was the last day of August, so I really like tried to cram it in a little bit, but this is such a fast-paced book that like it really wasn't that hard to do. I read the last like 30% in I think like 2 hours in the evening. So it's very quick paced. It's also quite short. I don't know exactly how many pages it is because I read it on Kindle, but it's quite short. It was just a really fun book, and I don't feel like I loved it. I don't feel like I absolutely loved either of the characters or their romance, but I really enjoyed it, and like you could see their connection. I really like the setting, which is Rebel Blue Ranch. I feel like it kind of does have similar vibes to Chestnut Springs, so I enjoyed that aspect of it. I did actually kind of like the family aspect a bit more in this one, which might be a bit controversial to say, but I feel like the characters had just a little bit more going on from the first book. We'll see how it goes. I do want to continue the series, but it's not high on my priority. I kind of have a theory, I guess, or an idea of what's going to come in the next books because it's a little bit obvious from this book, but I'm excited to see that. I also liked that Emmy was the only daughter, and you could like tell there was that soft spot with her dad, which was really sweet to see. And yeah, honestly, it was just really good. I really enjoyed Emmy, the female main character. I liked her friendship with Teddy. I also liked the little moment with Teddy's dad because that was quite unique, and I liked that moment. I found Luke really enjoyable to read about. Like, he was a likable guy. Her brothers were really likable. Her dad was really likable. I feel like the storyline with Luke could have been a bit more, but I wouldn't like want it to be more, I guess, because just how fast paced this was. I don't really know what was missing for this book for me, other than I just didn't love either of the characters or the romance, but I did really enjoy it. So yeah, it was a 3.5 for me. So those are all the books that I ended up reading in August. I obviously reread Book Lovers and rated it 5 stars. I rated Unmaking of June Farrow and One Golden Summer 4.5. Done and Dusted was a 3.5, and Same Time at Summer was a 3. And then obviously Summer Girl was a DNF. Those are all the books I read. Honestly, pretty good reading month. I definitely had some high contenders. I think out of all of these books, I'd obviously recommend Book Lovers, but One Golden Summer and The Unmaking of June Farrow are other ones I'd really recommend, especially Unmaking of June Farrow for this time of year. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope maybe you got some recommendations. Definitely have a look at Unmaking of June Farrow for this time of year, and I will see you in my next video.